Alright guys, today we're going to learn about storage when it comes to studying for the AWS Certified Solutions Architect certificate. So this is kind of just like exam preparation, just kind of figuring out what each service does and why it does that, getting a good overview. Alright, so our category is now on storage, which is super important for the exam. Let's go ahead and try to figure out why it's important. So you guys might wonder, what even is storage, right? You might think of like something where something lives, right? Kind of like a box and you store stuff inside of it. Well, yeah, that's what storage is, except this box is made for data and the storage is data. So we store data into the storage, right? So it's where your data lives. All right, let's see. So storage, especially S2, is the most tested topic in the entire exam for the AWS Solutions Architect. All right. So why does its storage matter? Okay, let's see. So the user can upload. Okay, so every application needs to store something, right? It could be, let's say, images, videos, files, maybe logs, a backup of your program, database data, static website content. So if computation is the brain, which we covered last episode, and storage is actually the memory for the brain. So the brain has to work on something, right? And that's on memory. Think of this as the brain. All right. So AWS gives us multiple types of storages depending on how often we access the data, how fast we need the data, and how long we plan to keep that data, and how much do we want to pay for it. Well, here's a brief overview of the four types of storages. The first one is S3. Another one is called EBS, which is Elastic Block Storage for EC2. Another one is Elastic File System, a shared file system, and FSX, Windows and Specialized File Systems. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay. So S3, Amazon Simple Storage Service. It's the king. Okay, I guess it's the main service that AWS provides. So we have to think of stored files in the cloud. So think of it as infinite storage. It's highly durable and can be accessible anywhere. So what is object storage? Well, instead of thinking like hard drives and folders, think of you upload objects like files, and each object has data, metadata, and a key, which is the name and the path. So examples of these object storages are images, image.jpg, logs.json, and backups.zip. Okay, so object storage. So we have a file. So this is a file. Let's label it that. Oops. So this is a file, and it has stuff. So this is an object file, aka object, right? And it'll have stuff like, okay, say data, I have things like metadata, and a key. So this file, which is an object, could be named backups, backup.zip, zip file, right? Okay, so why is S3 so important? Let's go figure out why. So it's important because it has file storage. It could back up other stuff, static websites, data lakes, analytics, and event triggers. So that's why it shows up consistently in exam questions. Now we have to figure out S3 storage classes, which is very important. See, these are about cost versus access frequency. Okay. Let's go ahead and check them out. So S3 is basically storages. So object S3. Think of S3 as object storage or file storage. Well, these are the different storage classes. So these are different subcategories. Subcategory of S3. So S3 could have a standard version, which is for frequent access. So if we access a lot, we would want to use standard. Access pretty frequently. So standard IA stands for infrequent access. So infrequent but fast. So standard IA. So IA stands for infrequent access. Oops. IA is equal to infrequent access. But it's fast. Okay. Glacier is an archive. So it's good for long-term storage. So archive, minutes to hours retrieval. So think of a glacier. Glaciers are big, right? Are big. So you usually want to put a bunch of storage in here, but it's for an archive, so long-term storage. We also have a Glacier version called Deep Archive, which is uh, even slower, but it's even cheaper. And Intelligent Tiering, which is unknown access pattern. So this kind of just adjusts based on your access pattern if you don't know what it is. So these are the different versions of S3. Go ahead and briefly go over them. So standard, we have standard but infrequent access. So these are quick. This is also quick, but usually for less access. If you don't access as much, infrequent access. The other one was Glacier, which is for long term. Let's say archive. And this another one was Glacier Deep Dive, right? Deep Archive. Glacier Deep. Kind of like long term. Usually, I guess it's for like logs. Logs or maybe just saving stuff. Okay, the real world analogy. Let's go figure it out. So think of storage like where you keep your stuff. So S3 is standard. It's like kind of just items on our desk. IA is like items in a drawer. So we use it sometimes, not as often as things on our desk, but we do have quick access. Glacier would be items in a storage unit. A little bit less convenient to access it right away, but still, nonetheless, it is storage. And Deep Archive is something just buried in a warehouse. It's locked up away. Nice and cheap storage, but to go ahead and retrieve that information, it's going to take a while. So life policies. So automatically moves data between storage classes. So if we don't use it, if we use it in 1 day, we'll leave it in standard. After 30 days, it'll be put in this infrequent access. So 1 day after 30 days, it'll be moved over to here. And after 1 year, it'll go Glacier. This is huge for cost optimization and exam questions. Okay. So we could think of it like a cycle. Okay, so I would say standard. It goes, it waits a couple days. This is 30 days. So this would be infrequent access. Then Glacier. And if it gets hit at any time, it could go back to standard if it's used. If it's used, it'll go back to standard. So standard is king. Next, we're going to learn about data protection, which is very tested. Let's go ahead and figure it out. We have versioning, which keeps old versions of files, protects against accidental deletes and overwrites. So these are just different versions, different things we store. So things we store. For example, this is kind of like versioning. So if we have version 1 and we're on version 2 right now, let's say version 2 fails. We usually just revert back to version 1, and which is the most stable version, right? Because let's say we didn't have versioning. We would start version, oh, we would only have one version. Let's say our main version, version V1, right, was to fail. We don't have anything to revert back to, right? So our whole system would fail. That's why whenever adding new features, we'd have version 2. Let's say if I added a new version, a new feature, it would be version 3. So we just keep on rolling back until we have a stable version. Okay, so MFA delete. So this is for extra protection. For example, this stands for multi-factor authentication. So before we delete something, we would have to test it, maybe send like a ping to your phone to make sure that a hacker, someone who is breaking into your system doesn't go ahead and just delete all your data. Okay, object lock. This is very important. Makes data undeletable. So we have things called object locks, which is a protection thing that we do. It's for protection. Right, we have two different modes for object locks, which is the first one being governance. Some users can delete, and compliance. No one can delete. Exam pattern. Must not be deleted for X years. That would be governance. Oh, must not be deleted for X years. Object lock compliance. Okay, so quick review. We have something called MFA. MFA to delete, so we have multi-factor authentication before deleting. Now we have object lock, so object locked has compliance, so no one could delete. Not delete would be governance. Oh wait, no, it would be compliance. The other one would be governance, because governance, some people have power, some have power. By power, I mean power to delete, and some don't. Right? But with a compliance, that means everyone has to comply. So comply means everyone has the same set of rules where no one can delete. Not delete. That's what compliance is. So object locked. Quick review. It splits into two categories: govern and govern. What does govern mean? Govern means that some people have power. Power to delete, no power. While compliance means no one can delete. No one can delete. Yep. Okay, and let's go review this real quick again. Data protection, versioning, keeps versions. MFA, requires MFA to delete projects. Lifestyle. Okay, we have that. Okay, now event features, super common. S3 can trigger three things. What is S3 again? Well, S3 is storage. Object storage. Remember, you should definitely drill this into your mind. So S3 is equal to object storage. And what are objects? It's like files, like JSON. like let's say ex json.zip, could be zip files. Usually it's like versionings apart. Okay, so what does S3 have? Okay, it could trigger things like Lambda, SQS, and SNS. I guess we'll go over these later, but we went over Lambda. Lambda is just like a part of code that just runs. So a pattern could be file uploaded it, go ahead and process. That would be S3 plus Lambda. Okay, the next type of storage we have is elastic block storage, which is not object storage. It's going to be different. Let's go ahead and move on to that. Okay, so what is EBS? Think of hard drive for EC2. Okay, so I would say EBS. EBS is elastic block store. Which is hard drive for EC2. So think of a hard drive for EC2. EC2, which is elastic cloud computing. Okay, so it's attached to one EC2 instance. Okay. It's high performance and low latency. So we have a bunch of EC2. I'll just be attached to one of them. EBS. So when to use it? We'll use it when there is a database storage and one for operating system disk. Applications needing fast disk. Not shared across multiple instances usually. So we could think of this like the back end. So not shared across multiple instances. Okay, so just think of it like a hard drive. I'm wondering, do they access it? So we allocate one of these EC2s just for the EBS. And then if we want to gather information, instead of gathering from, I guess, from an object, we just gather from an instance. Okay. So sum it up, let's say EBS. EBS is for database storage. It's also for operating system disk. Okay. So hard drive for EC2. Okay, EFS. Elastic File System. Okay, so a shared network drive. Multiple EC2 instances across multiple area zones automatically scales. So elastic file system. So EBS is elastic block, and this one's elastic file. System, okay. So shared storage, multiple servers need same files. Web servers sharing content. Shared storage across instances. So okay, I guess we say EFS is like shared files. Shared storage, and EBS. EBS would be not shared. Not shared storage, right? Okay, so F could be like friends. I'm gonna say friends. Friends always share things, so that's why EFS is sharing. And EBS only has one instance. EFS has multiple of them. Okay. Okay, EFSX, specialized file systems. Okay. So used when we need specific file systems. FSX for Windows. Windows shares files FSX for Lustre high performance computing. When to use this one over the other ones. Window apps needing SMB, Active Directory integration, enterprise file systems. Windows file server. So just think of a file system specialized. Okay, FSX is equal to special file system. So we have two types, one for window, one for Lustre. Window apps needing SMB. Okay, Active Directory integration. Okay, cool. Let's go check out the storage decision table. We gotta go memorize this. So store files and scalable is S3. Shared file system is EFS. Window file share. Okay, and disk for EC2. So this is like object storage. EFS is single instance. Wait, no. Shared file. EFS is friends. Friends share. Shared data amongst instances. Special Windows. Let's just say Windows. And EBS would be instance. One instance. With data. A disk for EC2. What is disk? Just like just storage for EC2. Okay, so critical exam patterns from our questions. These show up constantly. A static website uses S3 with CloudFront. We haven't went over CloudFront yet. Okay, that's a question. What is CloudFront but static? S3 is object storage. I guess CloudFront is probably just a static file uploaded and process. Yeah, that could be S3 to Lambda. Which means process. Archive life cycle policies. Data must not be deleted, object locked, okay. An unknown access pattern. Intelligent tiering. Common exam traps. Using EBS when multiple instances need access. Nope, we should use EFS. That's true. Now, using EC2 for file storage instead of S3. Yes, S3 is much cheaper. Is S3 located in EC2? I don't know. We'd have to look that up. For getting lifestyle policies, often the most cost optimization answer. Not recognizing object locked. Compliance questions always point here. Okay. Okay, simple way to explain storage. Let's go over this. So S3 is used for storing files at a scale, so objects. EBS is like a hard drive for one EC2 instance. Okay. EBS is across multiple servers. Okay. FSX is for Windows and other specialized systems. Lifecycle policies help reduce costs. Object lock prevents deletion. Remember, object locked has two versions. It has compliance and govern. This is only some, and this is like none. Okay, let's go try to finish question 1. So multiple EC2 instances need access to the same file across error zones. Well, if they need multiple instances need access to the same file across AZs, I would say use EFS. Okay. Okay, let's go down. File systems must be stored for 10 years and cannot be deleted. We're probably going to have to use object locked. Yep, definitely object locked. You don't know how often data is going to be intelligent tiering. An EC2 instance needs high performance disk storage. Well, high performance means quick, so I would say S3. Wait, disk, EBS. Okay, I'm gonna go write some questions down. We haven't gone over CloudFront. What is that? Also, how does S3 work? Is it located in a EC2 or is it its own VM? So S3, these are just the type of S3s, right? Let's see. Okay. We never went through what is SQS. How about SNS? We haven't covered that yet. Oh, okay. I think EBS is attached to one instance. Oh, EBS is part of S3. EFS. EFS. FSX part of EC2. Okay, multiple EC2 instances need access to the same file across. Yeah, that'd be EFS. Okay, CloudFront. CDN, Content Delivery Network. So what does it solve? Imagine your app is hosted in Virginia, now users in Europe. Tries to access my website without CloudFront, the request travels all to US, then back to them, slow and high links. So CloudFront copies your cached versions of your content in locations all around the world called Instead of connecting a user to a server, it connects to the nearby CloudFront edge. Okay. Think of CloudFront like a local warehouses. Your main storage is in one city, S3 or EC2. Your CloudFront gets copies in warehouses globally. Users from nearest house. Okay. Where can CloudFront sit in front of? Sits in front of S3. Application load balancers, EC2s, API gateways. So think of S3 like storage. This is stored across multiple servers, across multiple data centers, automatically replicated. You don't choose the server, manage this, you don't do any of that. Okay. Okay, you upload files, don't know which server is stored, what exactly it is, just because. User uploads file, your system processes them, too many uploads happen at once, your system crashes, requests get lost. So it's a buffer to queue, so it stands for simple queue service. Okay. Yes, okay. Mm. Sends the message, SQS receives it. Okay, I got it. Okay, so user uploads images, stores in S3. S3 triggers Lambda. So it's stored in S3. S3 triggers Lambda processes images. If there's a heavy load, it uses this as a buffer and delivers images globally via cloud front. Just learned S3 is non-EC2. Why don't we just use S3 for everything? It doesn't execute logic, process requests, run applications. If you see files, think S31st. Common exam trap. A system stores user that needs fast lookup. We didn't even go through this stuff yet. Oh, we're on third category. Let's go. Let me see. Okay. So we went over compute, storage, and databases. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go end the video here, and then we can move on to category 3 databases.